everyone, and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by Losico. So, today we'll be discussing three articles again. Two articles are from the Hindu. The first one is titled as A Clear Reading of the Ayurveda Surgery Move. Basically, this article talks about the very recent notification that has been discussed on giving surgical rights or to perform surgery rights to the Ayurveda doctors. So, what are the pros and cons of that will be discussed in this article. The second article, which is titled as Policing Faith, more or less we have discussed it at length, but today again we'll be seeing it for a thorough analysis again, which talks about the interfaith marriages and the conversion from one religion to another. And the third article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as President's Power to Pardon in US and India. So, as the name itself is suggesting, it draws a comparative analysis of the powers of pardoning of both the presidents from India as well as the United States of America. And on the fourth, we have news in flash column, wherein we'll be discussing the small and crisp news points that are more important for our prelims exam. So, if in case you're also preparing for the Judicial Services examination, you can definitely have a look at the Lord of the Courses, which is our Judiciary Test Prep course. This course is specifically drafted for all the Judicial Services aspirants, and the link is there in the description box. So you can download free study material for your own preparation as well. And also, we are delighted to announce that the PDF of the slides that we discussed the articles from would now be available on our Telegram group. So the link to our Telegram group, the Facebook page, as well as the Facebook group, as well as the WhatsApp group are all available in the description box from today. So you can definitely enroll yourself and be a member of these groups in order to gain these benefits. So you can have a look at other Losico courses as well if you feel interested in them. So this is the multiple choice question for the day. The pardoning power of the President of India is given under Article 72, 62, 161, or 154. You can write the correct answer in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. Discuss in detail the difference between the pardoning powers of the President and the Governor in India. Answer must be written within a word limit of maximum 250 to 300 words. With this, let's start with the first article for the day, which talks about the role of Ayurveda in India's medical system. Now, as we know that Ayurveda and the all concepts of Ayurveda have been very, very ancient in India. And in the earlier times, it was Ayurveda itself that was considered to be the best system of medicine until the British had brought the modern science or the modern medical science. So recently, the Central Council of Indian Medicine has issued this notification, which they have named as Indian Medicine Central Council Postgraduate Ayurvedic Education Amendment Regulations 2020. And this would actually allow a general surgery postgraduate degree holder to perform 58 kinds of surgical procedures. Now, please consider this is not the number of total surgical procedures that this surgery postgraduate can perform, but basically this is the type, the 58 kinds of different surgical procedures that would now be allowed to be performed by a general surgery postgraduate as well in the field of Ayurveda as well. So currently this system is not available, and the right to surgery is provided only for the MBBS or the MS doctor. But now, if this notification gets all its required fuel, so now this general surgery postgraduate in the Ayurveda would also be allowed to perform surgery in 58 surgical procedures. Now, with this, let's understand the important role that the Ayurveda is playing in the country in the current scenario. So, in Maharashtra, the 108 emergency, as we know, this 108 emergency ambulances. So, these emergency response ambulance services, they are actually manned by non-MBBS doctors itself. As we know that in case of emergency, whenever we call a 108 emergency ambulance, then there is a doctor who is available in the ambulance itself to take care and to give first aid to that patient until the hospital is reached. Now, this emergency response or emergency aid is given by a non-MBBS doctors, and most of them are Ayurveda doctors. And even in the times of COVID-19, large number of quarantine centers were manned and empowered by Ayurveda doctors and basically the non-MBBS doctors, as they are very efficient, and also they work for comparatively lesser pay, which makes it very viable and feasible for the hospitals to hire them easily. And if we talk about their potential, so then properly trained graduates can play an important role. Now, if at all we focus more into practically and properly training these Ayurveda graduates and provide them with postgraduate degrees, wherein we might give them a chance to give to perform surgeries as well. So, properly trained graduates can definitely add as an asset to the entire medical system. And if we talk about Ayush, which is Ayurveda, Yoga, and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, and homeopathy. So this actually is a priority area for the present government, as the government is focusing a lot on flourishing its resources in this regard. But then again, there are a lot of concerns also which are attached to this, because there are a lot of areas where the modern medical science, which is the allopathy and the Ayurveda, they do not really find any consonance with each other, and many a times there is a complete clash between the two therapies that are taken in, under these two kinds of medical systems. And that is why there might be a chance that a tussle or a friction might be seen. And also we need to make sure that the postgraduate people who we would be providing the right to perform surgery are very well trained, because there are a lot of surgeries, kinds of surgeries, that are very intricate and very delicate in nature. And even if you talk about a general person who wants to get surgery performed on himself, it is difficult for him to even trust a well trained MBBS doctor. So there can be a lot of trust and such kinds of issues as well, wherein people might not want to get their surgeries performed by some Ayurveda experts. So that is why it needs to be made sure that they are properly trained and they are given all the viable resources to polish their skills. So, if we talk about the Ayurveda and surgery, then the only contribution is Shar Sutra. So, as we know that various historical, books as well have mentioned about the Ayurveda. But if we talk about surgery, then it was only Shar Sutra, which was described in the Ayurveda text, which was one of the kinds of surgeries, and it has basically been incorporated in the modern medicine in the current time. And Mumbai Municipal Corporation has appointed Ayurvedic surgeons to many of their hospitals as well, and they're currently functioning as well. But many a times it has been noticed that they work as the assistant to the main doctor who is performing the surgery. But yet it has been seen that many Ayurveda surgeons who are currently practicing in the present scenario, they work way better than various interns and the new doctors that are appointed in various hospitals. So that is why it can nowhere be said that they are less in a way capable of performing surgery. Just the right training is what we need in the hour. And some of the 58 procedures are too complex for them to perform, so that is why this needs to be seen intricately, because there are certain types of surgeries which are not even easy to be performed by expert MBBS and MS doctors as well. And that is why for these intricate and delicate surgeries, it must be seen whether or not the Ayurveda surgeons would be well equipped to perform or not. So this was all for this article. Let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about anti-conversion laws. We have mostly discussed it a lot about it, as we know that recently the UP or the Uttar Pradesh cabinet has passed an ordinance against the so-called, or what they call as, love jihad, and the very law, it does not use the term Islamophobic. So in a way, if we see superficially or from the outside world, the terminologies or the words that are used in this particular ordinance which they have passed, they have not really come up against to be some law that is against Islam or some concept of love jihad or something. But in a hidden way, in a disguised manner, it definitely does attempt to do that. So it avoided the phrase like freedom of religion that several other anti-conversion laws in other states have used as title. Rather, it actually has used grounds for declaring as marriage as illegal if unless force, coercion, undue influence, and deceit. So these were earlier the grounds on which a conversion could have been declared illegal. That was if it is done on force, if it is done through coercion, undue influence, or deceit. And now it has also added marriage as one of the reasons. If at all a conversion takes place just for the purpose of performing marriage, then that conversion would also be declared as illegal. And the specific term that this very ordinance has used is alluring into marriage. So it means that somebody has actually allured, has actually given, like alluring simply means like when there is a small child, for example, and you want that child to walk along with you or to move with you, you perhaps offer something that the child likes. It might be a toffee, a chocolate, a lollipop, whatever. We have seen people doing that. So that very activity is known to be called as alluring, when you try to give the in what we call as the just you give a perks of something, you actually try to give a perks to the other person to come with you or to do something of your own will. And that is why they have used this term alluring into marriage as an additional ground. So if at all somebody is alluring somebody that he or she would marry that person, and for that he needs to convert his religion, so that has also been added as a ground on which the conversion can be declared as illegal. So similar laws already are there in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, and this law in UP has also been, it has come up in the similar force. And the prison terms have been for different things. Different prison terms have been prescribed, like 1 to 5 years in general, and 3 to 5 years for conversion involving women and SC/ST members, and approximately from 3 to 10 years for mass conversion as well. Now, here what we need to note down are these relevant precedents, case laws that are there in the field of anti-conversion laws, or in the cases of conversion in the case of religion. So, in the case of Rev Stanislaus versus State of Madhya Pradesh, 1977. So, it was held that the right to propagate a religion does not include right to convert that religion. And even in the right to privacy judgment in 2017, it was said that it is very much under a person's right to privacy to keep his religious faith or religious belief as a secret or as a private thing, and he need not tell everybody as to what he professes. But this very law, if it comes into picture in totality, this will definitely abridge right to privacy, wherein people will have to actually come up and declare that they're converting their religion or something like that. So maybe on the constitution and judicial grounds, it might not be able to stand constitutional if it is scrutinized in that manner. With this, let's discuss the third article for the day, which talks about president's power to pardon. Basically, recently, as we know now that the presidential elections in USA have concluded, and now we have Joe Biden as the new president of United States. But before that, when Donald Trump was the president, he had actually exercised his powers under the US Constitution to pardon Michael Flynn, who was his former national security advisor, who had pleaded guilty to lying to FBI. So basically, the power of the president of the United States of America to pardon in the cases of federal wrongs or the federal crimes, that is, the crimes that have been done against the federal or against the very institution of the US state, that in such cases, the president has a pardoning power, and it is very much unlimited and very much unfettered, which means not even the Congress or any other substantial institution can interfere in this pardoning power of the president in case of the federal wrongs. But obviously, if the wrongs are there for particular states, now as we know that in all the 50 states that are there in United States of America, they have their own constitution running. So if in case there is any wrong or crime that has been committed against some individual state, and even then the president has pardoned, but still a prosecution can go on against that particular person in the state itself. But if the entire crime is against the whole of United States of America, that is the central body, the central United States of America, so the president has very much unfettered and unchecked pardoning powers. But to that regard, we need to understand as to what are the what are the pardoning powers of the President of India. So, as we know that Article 72 of the Constitution of India provides for the pardoning power of the president. But in India, this pardoning power of the president is not unchecked or absolute, and he cannot exercise this power independent of the government, which means that cabinet's advice is crucial, and many a times it is desired that whatever the cabinet has said in consonance, the president ultimately abides by that, and that is the very decision that is taken by the president. Very recently, we had also been discussing the pardoning issue that had come up with the Tamil Nadu governor as well, wherein the Council of Ministers had actually come up with the pardoning of the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, but the governor has been delaying this pardon, and he has not been really paying heed to what the Council of Ministers have advised him to do. And in the similar scenario, even the President of India cannot exercise his pardoning power absolutely, and the cabinet plays a very important role in giving advice to him in these decisions. Now, here are some relevant judgments. Like we had already discussed these judgments in the Tamil Nadu governor case, Maruram versus Union of India, and Dhananjoy Chatterjee versus State of West Bengal. So these actually discuss about the pardoning power of the president and the governor. And according to Article 161 of the Indian Constitution, the governor has been given the pardoning power. So the pardoning powers of the governor and the president are same. Just the difference is that the president has the power to pardon even in the case of death sentence as well, but the governor does not have the power to pardon in the cases of death wherein death sentence has been awarded. So that is the only difference that we can see in here. With this, let's see what do we have for news in flash today. New Zealand to declare climate emergency. So this is basically a symbolic step which has been taken to increase the pressure for action to combat global warming. And with this step taken by New Zealand, it has actually joined Canada, France, and Britain that have actively been taking part now to decrease the carbon emission and to tackle climate change into coming years. So we should remember that now New Zealand has also joined the lead in this regard. So with this, we are done for the day. We hope it was a good and informative session for you all. Thank you so much for staying tuned with LawSikho.